Hey guys, Razor Blade Apple Films here. Today we're going to be doing a review on this new Spyderco that I got, the Blurple or Dark Blue G10 S110V Manix 2. Alright, first off, I want to give a shout out to FlyGuy78 who kind of recommended this knife to me. Wanted to know really which Manix to get. There's so many Manixes, by the way. There's a lot of variety if you were interested in this knife. But yeah, I left a comment on one of his videos and I was like, oh, which Manix should I get? I'm leaning towards this one anyway, and he said, like, yeah, definitely get this one. You're not going to regret it. And I had a pretty good experience with it. I really like it. And yeah, so shout out to FlyGuy78. He has a bunch of knife reviews. He's got some really nice knives, like Spydercos and ZTs, and I think he even has a Microtech or something like that. So yeah, go subscribe to him. I'll leave his name in the description. So I guess we're getting into the review. Alright, so we're going to be going over the design real fast. So just looking at this knife, I really like the look of it. Didn't think I would like this blade shape as much as I do. I guess we'll talk about that first. I've always said that I like the kind of sloping blade shape of the Delica. You know, how it just goes straight down rather than kind of rounds. I didn't really like the Sage blade shape, which is kind of the same. And I like the Paramilitary 2 blade shape a little over that. These are kind of comparable. Same blade length, basically. I think the Paramilitary 2 does have a little bit more cutting edge, but when you like measure up with the choils and everything, it looks as if they're about the same. But yeah, such an insignificant difference. They're pretty much the same blade length. But I didn't think I liked this blade shape. I would like this blade shape as much as I do, but I really like this blade shape. It doesn't have a lot of belly on it. Let's put it next to the Para 2 again. If you can see, the Para 2 definitely swoops up a little bit more, and this is kind of has like a little bit more of a shallow belly, and I really like that. It's been easier to get into kind of small places, like when you're cutting open packages and stuff like that. I don't know, the tip just digs in really easily. One more, I'll be probably bringing this Para 2 in. One more thing is the this is the Manix 2. The tip is a little bit thicker. I don't know if you can see that, but it is a little bit thicker than the Para 2. Not by much, though. But if anyone wanted to know that, the tip is a little thicker. On this one, you have the ball bearing lock. I'll talk about that in a minute. Is my camera focused? Alright, you got kind of an open frame construction. What really made me sold on this particular model is you have a skeletonized liners. The normal version is like 5 ounces, which is really heavy for a Spyderco. And, you know, by comparison, the Delica is like 2.5 ounces, I think. So if you can see, there is skeletonized liners in there. I really like this color. This is like a dark bluish purple. It's been called Blurple by fans, but Spyderco markets it as a dark blue G10. You know, I can see how it's dark blue. It does have a hint of purple in the right light, but it's kind of just like a deep, like indigo color. Kind of a cobalt blue. I don't know. It's a little bit translucent around the edges. You can really tell if you're in the sun and you're holding it up to the light. I might show a shot of that later, but it doesn't look translucent when you have it in your hands. It's actually looking a little bit more like that on camera now, but just looking at it, it looks just like a flat piece of, you know, dark blue G10. So, you know, if you didn't like that translucent look, don't worry about that. It's showing up a lot more like, see how it's like lighter around the edges? It doesn't look like that in real life. It's like more like just one complete color. And it's showing up a lot brighter on camera too. It's a lot more flat, like a kind of a flat color, kind of just, I don't know, it doesn't pop as much as it is on camera. But it looks really nice in real life. Yeah, like I said, like the blade shape. It's kind of that elongated spear point blade. It's kind of like a giant sage. You know, if you just dragged that blade shape out a little bit more. It's got a really thin tip too. Definitely a very tactical looking knife with this kind of sub-hilt shape right here. Ergonomics. I've heard a lot of people say that this knife just is made for their hands. It's not really me. I mean, the ergonomics are great. I mean, there's still Spyderco ergonomics, which are always good. But they don't like melt into my hands. It's nothing special. I mean, for me, the Sage is like a perfect fit. This knife just like fits in my hand perfectly. But yeah, the Manix 2 is still good though. It's just not like, I don't think it lives up to the hype that a lot of people say. But because of that really deep finger groove right here, if you were using this in a stabbing motion or self-defense or something like that, you're not going to lose your grip on it. And plus, this G10 is really, it's really coarse actually. It was a lot. I think it's smoothing out, and I guess I just don't really remember how coarse my Paramilitary 2 was when I got it. But this is like way smoother by comparison. This is like really grippy. It is made of S110V. Well, it's the wrong side of the blade. That's made in Golden, Colorado, USA. And it's made of S110V. A lot of people might love that or they might hate that. It depends on what your sharpening skills are. I thought I'd try it because I've never had a knife with that. And I can't really talk about my experiences sharpening it. I've only had this knife for like 2 weeks, and of course it hasn't gotten dull by then. I've used it a lot though, and it's still razor sharp. But I'm probably not going to let it get dull just because I don't really feel like re-sharpening this. I'm probably going to just touch it up every once in a while on the fine stones on my Spyderco Sharpmaker. I never really let knives get dull once I review them, but for this knife, I mean, usually when I get a knife to review, I let them get dull so that I can resharpen them and see like how long the steel lasts. But on this one, I think I'm just gonna sharpen it probably after this review. I guess I will show a quick sharpening test. All right, here's a piece of notebook paper. So yeah, it's still pretty sharp, and I've used it a lot. I actually cut through a lot of cardboard one day at work. I did bring this to work, and it's still really sharp. Cardboard usually dulls knives pretty fast, especially knives with like soft steel, like ACR13 MOV. But here's a close-up look at this G10 real fast. It is very grippy. Personally, I don't like the shape of the ball bearing lock, or just the look of it. It just kind of looks awkward, just right in the middle of the knife, and you can see the spring in there. It doesn't look very clean, and I don't know what I'll title this video. I might say like lock problems, but when I first got this knife, it was really stiff. Like, I could not close this knife with one hand. I almost sent it back because I was like, I read a bunch of reviews saying that this is a really stiff knife to open and close. And that never really solves itself. Some people said, like, just keep the knife until it, breaks in. And other people have said, like, I don't see how this knife can break in just based on how it's constructed. But I almost sold this knife, actually. And just because of how tough it was to close the lock, I was like, that's not something I'm interested in. But it did smooth out that, or I just found a better technique for holding it. But when I close my Benchmades, I usually kind of like bury the end of the knife in my palm like this. So here's my advice. Rather than do this and try to pull it down like that, because my hands are just too short to even get a good grip on it. And the way, actually I probably could, but the way the end is shaped, how it's rounded right here, it keeps wanting to like slip down like this. It's like so round that I can't get a good grip on it without it like slipping down. So my technique for closing it with one hand, and I can do that by now, it did smooth out. I think it did actually smooth out a little bit. But my technique now is just basically bury your hands in the pocket clip. Get a pretty good choked up grip on this, kind of grip it with the edge of your finger right here. And then it's pretty easy to close. Maybe that's how everyone does it, but I try to do it kind of like the Benchmade way, and this is not as smooth as a Benchmade. Maybe the sacrifice for being a stronger lock. I don't know really which one is stronger. I'm assuming this one would be just because of the spring that's in there. But it is a smoother knife now. I would, if you're getting this knife and the spring is really tight, or the opening isn't as smooth, I'd say just give it a couple of weeks and just open and close it every day, like as much as you can, and it will smooth out a little bit. But it's still not the smoothest knife ever. I mean, it's definitely not paramilitary 2 smooth. Like, like that knife pretty much just closes itself. But yeah, I would definitely feel very secure with this knife in a tactical role, or if this was the only knife I had. It does feel like a very tough knife. The D10 is great too. I've heard some people talk about that. It really is. It does click into place. Like, just that sound it makes when you have to open it. You know, there's a lot you have to get past, like compared to the paramilitary 2. Can you hear that sound? I don't know. It does whip open really fast though. Well, of course I fail it. But when I got the knife, it opened fast. Like there wasn't like a problem with smoothness. Just that lock was so tough. But it has gotten a little bit smoother. It's definitely not a free dropper though. I don't know if this knife ever will be a free dropper. So yeah, there's my opinions on the lock. Wish it was a compression lock. I think this would be a perfect knife if it had a compression lock, because I love the blade shape. I actually do like the ergonomics. You know, I like how there's that little area right here. Oh yeah, there's a finger choil, obviously. You can choke up on it if you needed to do that. There's a lanyard hole in the back. You know, pretty big lanyard hole. It's comparable to the paramilitary 2. I like how, for not being a deep carry pocket clip, they took this pocket clip all the way back to the edge. I can always appreciate that, because I like deep carry, and it does hide pretty well in the pocket. I guess we'll start looking at that right now. Alright, so here's how the Manix 2 will ride in the pocket. You know, it's kind of a fatter knife. You know, it'll take up a little bit more room than the Para 2, but it does hide pretty nicely for it not being a technical deep carry clip. But it is that chrome type clip they use a lot, so it looks kind of nice, you know, when you're using it, but it doesn't look that nice in the pocket. It does kind of draw a lot of attention to the knife. I'm usually wearing a lot of button-ups, so I don't really have to worry about that. Usually covers it up pretty nicely. It's a little bit more inconspicuous. Okay, one more thing about this knife is there's no blade play. You know, lockup is perfect. There is jimping all around the knife. I really like the look of the, you know, colored G10 scales with the silver accents. I think it just looks really nice. Like, I don't think the pocket clip would look good black. Maybe if it matched this. This would actually be cool if it was kind of like a metal color, but, you know, I just like the little silver accents all over the knife. It looks really classy. And the jimping here, I thought it would be a problem, but it's kind of round. It's not uncomfortable. I think it's honestly just for looks, because it doesn't really help with grip either. But yeah. Real fast, I wanted to talk about some of the variety you can get in this knife. You can get this knife in a lot of different... This is the most expensive option, so maybe if you didn't like this steel or this color option, you can get a cheaper one. I think around $90 you can get one that's just exactly like this, except S110V and then just black G10. You can get one with the all-black version, which I'm actually kind of interested in getting, honestly. You can get the lightweight versions, which have like kind of an FRN type. It's not technically called FRN. There's another name for it, but it's basically FRN scales. It looks like a Delica kind of. It's got just, you can get it in black. You can get it in an all-black version. And I think that has BD1 tool steel. And then you can get the dark blue FRN handles with the S110V like this. So if you really just wanted this knife for the steel, there is a cheaper option for that. But I just like this G10 way too much. This G10 like is really nice looking. Definitely a beautiful knife to have. Hope it smooths out a little bit. I'll let you know in further videos if it does. And the knife is definitely growing on me. So I don't know. But still right now, still at this moment, I like the Para 2 a little bit more. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. Alright, so here's the Manix 2 size comparisons. Here it is next to a Spyderco Sage, which is actually kind of a very similar knife. Similar handle shapes minus the little sub hilt, and similar blade shapes, though this one is a little bit longer. Here it is next to a Paramilitary 2. The Paramilitary 2 is a little bit bigger of a knife. Let's try to match it up, just edge to edge right here. See, like the Paramilitary 2 looks like it has a little bit longer of a blade length, but it really has a... Actually, I think it does have like slightly more cutting edge, but they are basically similar. Alright, there it is next to a Delica and an SC Zancudo. And here it is next to a Kershaw Skyline, which I did buy back, but I got the black wash version just because I missed this knife, and I'm glad I got this version. Let me know if you want me to do a redo review of this knife, because my first version, my first review didn't really do it justice, so let me know if you want to see that. Alright, and one quick thing worth talking about is this is a fat knife. It's going to take up a lot of room in your pocket width-wise. The Paramilitary 2 is a little bit more narrow. Not by much, but, you know, if you're lining them up like that, actually the Para 2, just because of that huge opening hole, kind of makes it about the exact same size. But it is going to take up a little bit more room in your pocket than something like a 940 or a Skyline if you carry one of those. So, you know, just know that it is a little bit bigger of a knife width-wise when it's closed. The deployment is really smooth. You can middle finger flick it with your thumb. You can kind of just, you know, roll it out if you want to be more discreet about it. I guess you can probably do the spider drop too. This is a knife designed by Eric Glesser. If you can see his signature right there, or his little maker's mark. Get the right light. It's not wanting to focus. Yeah, can you see it right there, that little E? But yeah, just a beautiful knife overall. I really like it. It's definitely grown on me. I didn't like it when I first got it, like I said. But in conclusion, I think this is definitely a knife you should get. Think about getting. Depends on if this is the most expensive version. This is like $136. So I would definitely recommend a Manix 2, but maybe if you didn't want to spend that much on this one, I'd say I would get a Paramilitary 2 over this one. I do still like that one better. But, you know, if you did like the looks of the Manix, and I do like the blade shape a lot more than I thought, then I would definitely get one. But that lock, I would prefer a compression lock. It's not the smoothest of opening. It definitely has a learning curve once you get the knife. But yeah, overall, though, I like the knife. Still probably wouldn't say it's my favorite, though. I like the Sage and the Paramilitary 2 more. But that's just me. So...